Okay, let's get going.
Hello.
Hello, yes, hello. Should we get straight into it?
Yeah, let's jump into it. So today we're going to discuss intellectuals and maybe the difference between intellectuals and the intelligentsia.
Yes, right. We actually didn't even get into that.
Should be alright.
Sorry. That's me moving
Things
my
happen,
laptop. Yeah, we didn't get into as I pronounce it, intelligentsia, but it doesn't.
Yeah, we have
doesn't
two
matter.
pronunciations, and for example, Chomsky pronounces it as intelligentsia because Chomsky is famous.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah.
And by the way, because the term is originally Polish, and some people even think that it's Russian, but I think it's
thought
Polish.
it was Russian. I didn't know that. Oh, yeah, you're right.
Anyway.
Yeah, it is. Mm-hmm.
So, speaking of intellectuals, what is your take on intellectuals? What do you think about them?
Dropping me right into the deep end right at the beginning here. What is my take on intellectuals?
Yeah.
I think, as we've probably gathered, it's not really a world that I'm very much involved in. So I think there's kind of a lot to say about this, surprisingly, actually, and we were kind of talking about this towards the end of the audio portion of today, in that I made it clear that I'm much more interested in kind of like the practicalities of this kind of thing. So like what someone does, what an intellectual may do that may improve something. I wanted to say society, but not even society, even if that's in some small way.
Yeah.
As we pointed out, this can be done mainly through education. I'm not really much of I do enjoy the theory behind these things, so I do to an extent enjoy ideas, but of course a lot of intellectualism, unless you have someone who's extremely famous and has kind of like the influence, power, even maybe money, let's say, to kind of coordinate and enact change, then the majority, I guess, of intellectuals are just people playing thought games with their friends, I suppose. So I don't know if that really answers your question, but that's my take on intellectuals.
I see. Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah.
So yeah, we have intellectuals and we have the intelligentsia. And interestingly, intellectuals can be of different kinds. So they can be left-wing, right-wing, conservative, and for example, we can name several people and all of them will be called intellectuals because they write something about philosophy or they discuss some political questions, etc. But when it comes to the intelligentsia, it's so different because there are some interesting features of the intelligentsia I'd like to mention here. In a sense, they are a subtype of intellectuals. Although intellectuals would like to separate themselves from the intelligentsia because of the existing bias. So yeah.
Well, let's start from the beginning of that then. What is the intelligentsia?
The intelligentsia or the intelligentsia is the term coined in Polish, and it's meant some university-educated people who rejected the politics of Russia. And interestingly, this term was used in the same meaning in the Soviet time because, in a sense, the intelligentsia were kind of dissidents. So those people who were in opposition because they knew more than the rest, because they were well educated and they didn't trust mass media, and that's why they were called intelligentsia.
Right, yeah.
But there was another term, Soviet intelligentsia, which is a different type. So lower class people who got a university degree, and then they agreed with the state. They were not in opposition, but they believed that if they are teachers or doctors, then they can call themselves the intelligentsia.
Yeah, I've just gone past it now. Oh, it says here, right, in the 19th and 20th centuries, like the Polish words became a European usage to describe the social class of men and women who are the intellectuals of the countries of Central and of Eastern Europe. Okay, so here it says in Poland, the critical thinkers educated at university, And as you said here, in Russia, the nihilists who opposed traditional values in the name of reason and progress.
Yeah, believing in progress against traditional values.
But in Western Europe, intellectuals were in the mainstream of their societies and thus exercised cultural and political influence, as it says here, such as in like Germany.
There is a famous quote attributed to Lenin, and I think he really said that because he was notorious for such phrases. He said, the intelligentsia think that they are the brains of the society, but actually they're not its brain, but its shit. Pardon my French, but he literally said that.
So I thought you were saying that. That's what Lenin said.
That's what Lenin said.
Why did he say that?
Because he was part of the intelligentsia himself, but according to his philosophy, he wanted to get rid of all other people who would be called the intelligentsia, and that's why in 1922 he got rid of all of them. He said that you either leave the country or else. And those who stayed in the Soviet Union, they were killed. And those who left, there were several philosophers. I mean, like hundreds, like 200 scholars and philosophers, etc. They left, and they contributed to the development of Russian culture. And interestingly, Sergei Kapitsa, my favorite intellectual, once said, you can find his video on YouTube, about Lenin, his attitude towards Lenin. He said that, well, Lenin was very important and influential, etc., and he saved 200 intellectuals, and then he was asked, like, from whom? From himself, because those who stayed in the Soviet Union, they were killed. So he let them go, and by letting them go, he saved them, in a sense. Well, of course it's sarcastically, it's said sarcastically, yeah? So yeah, that's why intellectuals are philosophers, scholars, teachers, doctors, who do not necessarily agree with the state, while the intelligentsia are usually in opposition. So they nearly always disagree with the state. They disagree with the militarism in general, and that's why they're hated by the government. Usually hated, but not all people who are hated by the government are the intelligentsia.
Right.
For example, I would never call Navalny the intelligentsia. Although he was very important and he was very politically active and he was in opposition, but not all of them are the intelligentsia.
Why is he not intelligentsia?
Because he was not so... I don't think why. Maybe because he... Yeah, probably because of his right-wing ideas. Because the intelligentsia are usually left-wing, and they are criticized for being left-wing by Jordan Peterson, who is an intellectual but not the intelligentsia.
Right, yeah.
And even inside the left-wing school of thought, like, for example, Chomsky. Chomsky criticizes some left-wing intelligentsia members for being not very consistent in their ideas. For example, for supporting Lenin or Stalin or some other ideas, while he's with Trotsky, for example. So there are different schools of thought, and they have different agendas. So we discussed it in our audio part.
Is there an intelligentsia now?
Yes, and one of my listeners, Dmitry, he's a proper. He's part of the intelligentsia, and I can't say that I'm an aspiring member of the intelligentsia, but technically, having a PhD and knowing several languages, including ancient languages, and teaching ethics, and being interested in in culture and in politics, I think that I'm between the intelligentsia and intellectuals, and I'm an aspiring intellectual, yeah.
Yeah, I think we said at the beginning of today that you said that you're an aspiring intellectual.
Yeah, aspiring intellectual and aspiring member of the intelligentsia, because in order to be called proper intellectual, and especially in order to be part of the intelligentsia, you should be well known and you should be praised as the intelligentsia by others.
So notoriety is an important
Yes,
part of it as well.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I guess within intellectual circles
Yeah.
at least.
So I can give an example of my favorite intellectual. It's Sergei Kapitsa. We also had Sergei Averintsev in...
Oh, yeah.
But
he came up.
my favorite is Sergei Kapitsa, and I like him for several reasons, because of his political views, of his moral ideas, of his public activity. Like he hosted a TV show, an educational TV show, and he's a world-renowned scholar. He's a famous physicist, and I agree with him in many respects. Although he's not a believer, and technically I'm a believer, but yeah, it's more difficult, it's more complicated.
I guess since we've got a minute left, I think there's a lot more to say about this. This has been an interesting topic today, as we said during our little transition period. Any final notes from you on this topic?
I think that most of the intelligentsia, they are Westerners, and it's okay to be a Westerner, because these days some people get rid of English, for example. They reduce the number of English lessons at school, or they, for example, even take it away from the curriculum for some reason, yeah. But I think it's good to be a Westerner if you do not push, if you simply choose the best from the West. You don't have to agree with everything the intelligentsia teaches. For example, some of them promote some values that are not acceptable in this country. But at the same time, you can study abroad if you can. You can learn different languages, and it's perfectly fine to know several languages and to study abroad.
Maybe next time we can talk about Eastern and Western concepts.
Approaches, yeah?
Yeah. We've not actually done that before, actually. That could be an interesting one.
Little do I know about the East and its traditions.
Well, we'll have to find out, won't we? Russia considers itself East. So, I guess...
So what would you recommend to our listeners? Should they be afraid of becoming the intelligentsia in this day and age?
I don't think there's anything... That's an interesting question, actually. I don't know if I'd say there's anything to fear, but this might be a question I'll have to ruminate upon a bit. No, my thoughts and feelings on this are really more related to usage rather than danger. If one aspires to become intelligentsia, do it for others and not for yourself.
Yeah.
It's very short and not very...
Yeah, they shouldn't remain in the bubble, in their own bubble, because one of the main problems of the intelligentsia is that they believe that they can influence the world and they can change the society. In actual fact, they are in the minority, and that's why they should think more about the public at large, and they should do something, not just think and talk, but do something.
Right, exactly.
So yeah,
what I wanted to say.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was a successful one.
Yeah.
Be good.
As always. Cheers.